Hello, thanks for calling Reasonable Doubt.
Hey, yeah, it's Justin again.
Hey, man.
Man, don't you just want to come on the show?
Nah, yeah, but listen, Jimmy or JV, don't let Jimmy give you too much grief about that, because now that Jimmy's on the board of HCCLA, he'll be up on every single thing, and he'll ask anybody else for that.
And it's all for free because we love this. I love this organization. I'd be nothing. I owe a lot to this.
Taking on more volunteer opportunities.
Yes,
look, I was just struck by something y'all were saying. You know, you were talking about what happens if a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of Republicans win, and it's going to shut down. And am I wrong, or is the law what the judges are supposed to be guided by? And does the law change from court to court?
Well, it's not the law, and that's not what I'm referring. I'm not talking about how the law is ruled. I'm talking about how day to day we're functioning. I mean, we're trying to get some agreements on how e-filing is going to go, or paperless courts and all of this. And I would hope that everybody can be adults and set aside politics to help advance the system overall, and not just sit there and say, well, we're not going to do this because that's what the Democrats want, or that's not what we're not going to do this because that's what the Republicans want, kind of thing, when it might be an idea that's actually pretty good for the whole of everyone.
Well, and I understand that, but don't, like, e-filing decisions and things like that, those are governed by the Supreme Court, and the district clerk is required to implement those at the direction of the Supreme Court.
Right.
And
well,
so,
the e-filing,
I understand some of the things.
I'm talking about this whole notion of, how plea papers are done and kind of stuff within, this whole idea that we're trying to move to completely paperless courts. That sort of thing.
There is a committee for that, Jimmy.
Right.
So you can probably feel a whole lot better now.
Well,
I nominate Jimmy to be the head to now take on the role of how to
Isn't Joe Venus on that, or Damon?
We're gonna put Jimmy's first order of business.
David will happily let you take that over.
I'm not taking that from him. He can keep that all day long. He can keep that all day long.
I just think the point is that y'all are right, that there's too much inconsistency between these courts, and there's some things that you can't do. You can't make somebody go to the jail docket, like JD was referring to, the few judges who just outrightly refuse to go. But the way that our system is supposed to work, checks and balances are built into it more than just in between the branches of the government. And that's why, there should be some things that judges don't have discretion and control over. We're always going to have judges, some waive appearances, some won't waive appearances, and that creates its own problems. But I think that in a lot of ways what we've seen is that there's just kind of a lack of leadership. No one is stepping up and saying what Jimmy is saying, which is, hey, this may be a good idea or a bad idea, but let's put aside who it's coming from and just focus on the idea. And that's what's been really disappointing, not on the immediate aftermath of Harvey, at least for me. There was a lot of leadership, a lot of good decisive decisions were being made, courts were being closed, dockets were being rearranged, appearances were being waived. But now that we're away from that, now everybody's settled back into, just doing things the way that they want to do them for no reason or logic behind them.
Right.
And I think it comes down to a lack of people being true leaders and doing what is making tough decisions and just falling back on political things.
Right. They're beholden to the leaders of the party.
Right. We're starting to see, I'm trying to think of like Rick Court. I think Brock Thomas, did he run as a Republican when he ran? I know Guiney's doing Star Court. So you're seeing a drug court. So you're seeing these Republican judges doing things that some may be considered handouts or accommodating individuals or Democrats.
You're talking about accommodating the defendants, or are you talking about the judges who
the
voters
social
of Harris
programs,
County State?
Social
You're
programs.
talking about the voters of Harris County have said, we don't want you to be a judge anymore, and then the commissioners go ahead and make them a judge.
Well, I think I wasn't going that right. I was just saying I think they're embracing those. Like Guiney's embracing, doing a great job. Judge Guiney, Judge Brock Thomas is running that Rick Court, in my opinion, phenomenally. But they're social justice courts, social programs courts that aren't.
Or they're not the traditional.
Not the traditional, right?
Not the traditional tough on crime.
Right.
Courts that they're.
I get that, and I don't have much experience with Star Court with Judge Guiney, but I don't know. I mean, I've the senses I've gotten when I've been in RIC court before, which RIC is RIC, it's reintegration court, is there's nobody being reintegrated. Most people are not getting probations or deferreds. Most people are getting the shortest prison sentences and lots of 1244As if they can, but they're all walking out of there with more felony convictions that are going to make reintegration into any society more difficult. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like sometimes it's like what you said earlier. If you have a bunch of Republicans running those kind of programs, it kind of becomes the foxes running the chicken house, right?
Well, I've had a completely different experience, and I think it's a good inquiry. It's a good query. Maybe if we, I wonder if maybe Fair Court Watch, if they've looked at some,
I don't know.
These nonprofits have looked at how these courts are operating or not. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, I think the problem you've got right now is you've really got a split in both parties, and neither party really has a direction or has any leadership, in my opinion, right now. And I think you see that down here at the local level, as well as at the national level.